What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Anything Liverpool live stream with myself. It's a bit of a lonely one today, unfortunately. Just me on to annoy everybody. I hope everybody's doing well after watching Liverpool play today for the first time in a competitive sense, I suppose you could look at it. But before we get into everything, reviewing the news, reviewing the game itself, I want everybody to get their comments in as well so I can have a look at a lot of them. But before that, just to make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, jump to the link in our bio on us to get access to all of our socials. Lots more media content coming your way in the coming weeks. Now, Liverpool played today. We've seen Florian Wirtz finally playing a Liverpool shirt in a live game rather than a behind doors game. And he looked impressive, I must say, along with a couple of others that did look impressive. Now, a couple of people that didn't look impressive obviously played as well, and it just was a bit of a mismatch in regards to how everything went with the game, I suppose, is probably the only way that you could look at it. But we'll get into a couple of things that we learned about the game. Is that we haven't, first of all, seen any of our preseason full 11 yet. They've all been a mixed match of everybody that played against everybody. So I'm not really overtly concerned about any of the individual performances that I seen today. Realistically, it wasn't the most concerning of things. You had a starting back four that had Virgil van Dijk and basically the Goonies. So it didn't necessarily worry me whatsoever. You had multiple changes mid-game. You had big full 11s nearly changing mid-game. But it's one of them that it didn't necessarily concern me whatsoever. Let me get the lineups here. 1 second for me now. We'll get these lineups here because I want to have a look at them and go through the squad as it is. Overview, and let's have a look at the match that was today that we lost 4-2, which the fourth goal was just utterly hilarious. But we'll take a look at the squads here now because I'm just going to share the page because it's, as we said, like, people are too concerned. It's just a friendly. If you're taking this game seriously in any way, shape, or form, you need help. Like this, when these guys are on preseason tour, it's there for sponsors and fitness. It's to wave at the sponsors, get their fitness up, play in a humid environment that they're not going to be playing in at home, and just be done with it. That's essentially the way that I look at it. And anybody that's taking this seriously at all needs to get their head checked. But let's take a look at the squads, and we'll have a quick look and sort of see who did well, who didn't do well, subs that came on, how well they did. Bit of a mixed bag, I won't lie, when we take a look at it. Obviously, we had a starting 4-3-3, Alisson in goal. That back line is just... You had a midfielder playing centre-back, you had Virgil van Dijk being the only probable starter going forward into this season, and then you had Stevenson in at right-back, which, while he looked semi-impressive, he's a young kid. It's his first time probably in a pre-season game getting this many minutes. I don't see why anybody was overtly unimpressed by him. I don't think he's personally at the level. I think he's highly rated, but I think he's a while to go yet, and he's in his 20s, so who knows what will happen there. You then had Tyler Morton that went off and then came back on. I wasn't impressed by him at all. He very much showed his level, that why he wasn't selected for any game time last season, and realistically is probably going to be sold this season. Doesn't shock me whatsoever. But everybody in the comments and everybody watching at the minute, let me know who you thought stood out, and both in a good and a bad way, because I'd love to know everybody's thoughts on it, because I know for a fact you have all of these Twitter tacticals online now absolutely raving over Rafael Leao, who got a goal and an assist in a glorified preseason game against a back line that we threw together with some duct tape and glue. But some of the standouts that I thought did look very well in this game, Rio Ingamoa looks electric, but you saw both the good and the bad. So it'll be interesting to see how he develops going forward and what's going to happen with him. Because, as I said, you've seen the good and the bad. You've seen the electric on-ball play that he's able to produce. He's brilliant at dribbling, brilliant at getting around people. He's rapid, he's shifty, he's agile, but he can get pushed off the ball so easily. And that just comes with his age. Like, he's still a kid. Like, he's just gone 17. He still needs to bulk up a little bit. it's going to come with time, but I don't think he's anywhere near ready for the first team minutes on a regular basis whatsoever. It'll be another year or two before that happens. But he's coming. Do not think that he is not coming. He is going to be an absolutely electric winger for Liverpool going forward. We then seem to sort of go back to our 4-2-4 kind of a press. You had Harvey Elliott and Florian Wirtz sort of pressing from the front quite a lot, and then you also had Szoboszlai rotating in there as well. It was very much sort of a very fluid midfield that kind of got everybody going. Salah had an opportunity to score the easiest goal of probably his career, and he just elected to pass it. I don't know why, but he decided to feed it back to Florian Wirtz, who, in my opinion, was robbed of an assist. Is what it is. Could have equalized there and then, but the goals that Milan got came hilariously from our own mistakes and the fact that we didn't have a well-constructed back line. And realistically, this is your first proper preseason game on tour. They've already been there for a while. They've been there for a couple of days already. They've acclimatized a little bit better than us already. They've already played Arsenal in a game. Watch now, and I suppose you can't really say watch now in our second game because of the quality of the team that we're going to play. But the more ideal that we're going to look and the tactics that we're going to have, watch the 2 Bilbao games that come up now towards the start of August before the preseason game. I say preseason game, the Community Shield game against Crystal Palace. Credit to AC Milan. They basically just parked the bus for 90 minutes because we didn't necessarily even have a striker in the team. It worked, although if not for our own mistakes, 2 goals on the breakaway, another goal came, all 4 goals came on a fast break, basically. You had the 3rd goal that was because of Curtis Jones giving the ball away, and then they got away on a break again. The 4th goal was just Kostas Tsimikas forgetting how to play football. Anybody that blames that on Mamardashvili is in dreamland. And then you had the other 2 goals that came just from fast breaks down the left-hand side and just balls being brought into the box. Then it's not even to be anything to be concerned about, in my own opinion, because a full starting 11 that's there, that doesn't happen. And full speed 11, that doesn't happen. But some of the subs that came in were very interesting and that I was very impressed with. Konaté had an absolute wicked pass to get Cody Gakpo's goal. And then somebody that I think needs mentioning quite a lot is Ryan Gravenberch, purely because even at centre-back, this guy was unbelievable. On his defensive side, he was absolutely fantastic. The defensive duties that he took over were brilliant. Nearly 60 passes, and he misplaced 3 of them, which is monumental. And that long ball that created the first goal for Dominik Szoboszlai, electric, like nearly full length of the pitch, 80-yard pass that we were used to seeing a certain Scouser doing for quite a while. And now we have the Dutch Ruud Gillet doing it for us. His defensive numbers were astonishing. Load of interceptions, good few clearances, a lot of defensive actions and a lot of recoveries. 180% of his duels, standard for Ryan Gravenberch, but that's just, again, just standard for him. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to probably move away from the review. If anybody wants to jump back to the sort of preseason review and what we looked at, we will, but there's a couple of other things that I sort of want to get into at the moment. And what the next one is Liverpool's centre-back problems. And we do have centre-back problems right now. Liverpool have major centre-back problems. But before we get into that, I'm going to ask everybody, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure to jump to the link in our bio for all of our socials. Lots more content coming your way over the next couple of weeks. So make sure you don't miss out on that and have your notifications on so that you never miss out on any future streams or videos. Liverpool's centre-back problems. Where to begin? I was one of the people that was against selling Jarell Quansah, despite the fact that Arne Slot supposedly didn't really fancy him. The club, during the whole rumours of him leaving, were like, we don't want him to leave, but this apparently is what he wants. Maybe he's seen that he wasn't going to get game time, but the ironic thing about it is the 2 centre-backs that were ahead of him, one is Joe Gomez, who is a walking hospital bill, and the other one is Ibrahima Konaté, who is also an injury-prone centre-back. Realistically, he was going to get game time. But I'm not mad about the move. I think he's going to get phenomenal development in the Bundesliga, in Champions League football, and in 2 years' time, if he develops the right way, we can get him back for a relatively cheap fee for what would be going for a similar experienced and aged centre-back of that age. And yeah, it's dangerous times at centre-back for Liverpool in the coming weeks. We have Virgil van Dijk, who is practically Superman and bulletproof. You have Ibrahima Konaté, who loves the knock on a season-by-season basis. And then you also have Joe Gomez, who has missed the guts of, I think, 300 games for Liverpool in his career in the last sort of 7 or 8 years. Anybody that was relying on Joe Gomez to be any sort of impactful player in the coming season is lying to themselves. Simply stating, Liverpool needed a centre-back before Jarell Quansah left. We now need 2. If we don't get 2 centre-backs, you're going to be seeing a lot of Wataru Endo playing there. You're going to be seeing a lot of possibly Costa Tsimikas or Andy Robertson playing there. Devil forbid the thought. And you will see a lot of Ryan Gravenberch possibly playing there. Liverpool need to get at least 1, if not 2 centre-backs in this summer transfer window to finish it. And the question then becomes, do you still pay the £120 million plus for Alexander Isak? Or do you take said 120 million, buy 2 centre-backs and a backup striker? I genuinely think the latter part of it, especially if you have a Mark Gahey who is in his last year and Palace would accept about 40 million for. You could probably get him for about 35. You could then also go and get somebody like Giovanni Leone from Parma in Italy, or another young centre-back that's on the up and up. Charlie Cresswell is another one who plays for Toulouse at the moment. Big guy, really, really good in the air. You have multiple options that could come in and develop and sort of be the senior guy that Liverpool are looking for at the moment. Mark Gahey seems like the most obvious one, but Palace's stupid asking price of £50 million for a guy with a year left on his deal who's not renewing, they're going to lose him in 12 months anyway. As the summer transfer window goes on, I can imagine people putting a squeeze on Palace for that. But it's going to be interesting to see, because I don't think Liverpool are anyway stocked remotely enough at the centre-back position to go a full season without it being disastrous. We got lucky last season that Konaté only missed those 10 games and Joe Gomez was fully fit for those 10 games. And then they were fully fit for the remainder of the season, and Virgil van Dijk was able to put in an Ironman performance and be fully fit for the entire season while in a contract year. I don't expect our luck to continue at that. You've seen what was like with Arsenal. It'll be very, very surprising to me if Liverpool remain this injury lucky going into the new season. But let me know your comments and your thoughts on the centre-backs with regards to what we're going into the season for, because I don't think we're at all stocked on that. I think we need that more than we need a striker, and we already have a striker. We only need a backup striker. I don't think there should be any inkling as to what any interest in going forward with the Alexander Isak stuff until we get our centre-back situation sorted, because it's no good throwing 150 million at Alexander Isak in Newcastle if you then have 1.5 fit centre-backs, because I'm counting Ibrahima Konaté and Joe Gomez as half a centre-back, or 2.5, should I say, or 2 centre-backs that are fit, because now you've only Joe Gomez who misses so much time, and then you have Virgil van Dijk who doesn't miss time, and then you have Konaté who loves a knock mid-season as well. We're not going to get that lucky again next season. A new centre-back has to come in. Just looking at a few of the comments here with regards to the centre-backs. Hussein Ali mentioning that we need to buy Gahey. I think this will be a late window move. I think Palace will sweat and then eventually see that nobody's come in from at the price that we're asking. We might as well cash in and get a bit of money for him, even though he's going in 12 months' time. It'd be stupid for them to not do that. Now, in saying that, the closer it gets to the end of the transfer window, the less time they have to move on to any targets they want to get with the money that they're bringing in. So it may happen sooner than that. Similarly with Newcastle and Isak and them needing centre-backs as well, it could be very much a situation that the longer this Isak thing goes on, the less likely it is he's going to be sold. That's just my opinion on it, because apparently Brentford are asking for, I think it's 40 million, 50 million plus for Wissa, and Newcastle haven't even gotten within 20 million of that, and it's been rejected, even though Wissa wants to go, and now Saudi Arabia are interested in Wissa. With how likely Newcastle are at the moment to not bring players in, I think they just consolidate, circle the wagons, don't sell Isak, try and go again and get a UCL spot again next season, and then we're then left with our dick in our hand because we don't want to. But we've put so much time and effort into trying to buy Isak that now all of a sudden it just doesn't work out. But that's just my own thoughts on it. It's a bit, yeah, it's one of those. We have then there Itu Kuntui. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that, but this guy here, this lady here, I think we need to replace Diaz, and we also require a CB. Rio Ngamoa could be up there, but he's still young, so left wing needs to be covered. Also, centre back is a priority. Centre back is a massive priority, in my opinion. Left wing, not so much, because if you just go and get a young guy, like Everton are looking to try and get Malik Fofana, I would try and rob him off them. I don't think Rodrigo is going to happen because of the extortionate salary that he's looking for. So I think he ends up staying at Madrid, despite my want for him. I would love Rodrigo. He would be a fantastic upgrade on Luis Diaz. But if that salary is still at that 400 grand asking fee, not a chance am I going near that. With regards then to the centre back, you have the likes of Charlie Cresswell. You then have Mark Gahey, you have Giovanni Leone. All these guys are 22 and younger. I think Mark Gahey's a little bit older than that, but Mark Gahey's probably option one, and then them guys are below that. I don't think there's anybody coming through the academy that could come in and sort of fill that Quansah role at the moment that's missing right now. Arne Slot said earlier that he's happy with his options at centre back. I wouldn't be fucking happy with them options at centre back. Joe Gomez has missed so much time, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like, it's one of those, similar to the Thiago situation that we had a few years ago, where he was here for 4 years, he was fit for 2 of them on 10 million a year. Like, and the only reason that isn't talked about as such a failed transfer is because he only cost us 20 million quid. And a fantastic, like, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you're not available to put that talent onto the pitch, you're absolutely useless to a footballing outfit. That's just the way that it is. It's concerning, to be honest, but we'll see how things go. I'm not ringing alarm bells yet, but if we go into the season with no centre back brought in, I'll be very concerned, because the centre-back needs to be brought in, more important than Alexander Isak, in my own personal opinion, with regards to that. But everybody let me know your thoughts. Is a centre-back a priority? Should we still go try and get Alexander Isak? Should we just buy a backup striker, tell Isak wait a year, and we'll get him in 12 months, consolidate and get our centre-back options and get centre-back depth there to help a 34-year-old Virgil van Dijk, and a constantly injured Ibrahim Konaté, and basically a walking hospital bill in Joe Gomez. Like, if I see Wataru Endo lining up at centre back at any point this season, starting in a Premier League game, I'd be very worried. Or even Ryan Gravenberch going back there, I would be extremely worried. The only other person that I think could sort of fit into that role is maybe Stefan Bajcetic, but that kid's coming off of surgery in May. That's probably not going to be fit until the middle of August, meaning that he'll be thrown to the wolves straight away and needs time to build up his minutes. It's going to be a tough one. We're going to need centre-backs. I have all faith in Richard Hughes, but I think we need to steer away from this Alexander Isak stuff, because let Newcastle keep him. Let them keep an unhappy player for 12 months, and let's go get him in next summer if we are going to go get him. But other than that, I don't particularly see the need of it whatsoever. Get a backup striker. We've Hugo Ekitike. We can get another left winger that can play left and right wing if you want, in Malik Fofana. You then have Cody Gakpo that still looks as good as he does, in my opinion, playing with Ben Doak to his inside, so somebody that was not the most physically imposing today. If he had somebody like a Darwin Núñez or a Hugo Ekitike in there, I can guarantee it they're not defending him the same way with 3 people in front of him. AC Milan also parked the bus, so it was difficult to break them down. It's a multitude of issues that need to be addressed. you might not have the cash. If Newcastle turn around and say, yes, Isak is for sale, how long did Florian Wirtz take to finalise? It was a month. And in that time, we didn't really get anybody else. I think we got Kirkes in that time as well, but that's not going to be the easiest task. You're now going to have to try and finance a deal of more than what Florian Wirtz was. That's probably not financially feasible to get Isak, Ekitike, Florian Wirtz in the same year. It provides you with an outlay of about 100 million plus per year that you have to pay in transfer fees, agent fees, and salaries for all them three players. That's probably not that. Like, you with UEFA, you only have a set percentage of how much turnover you can spend, and it's 70%. We might have the money, but it's not the money is irrelevant. It's how much that we can spend of it. The same as handing Newcastle 120 million or 150 million. They can have all the money. If they can't spend it, it's a different story. UEFA only allows a 70% of your overall reported turnover to be spent on wages, salary, agent fees, transfer fees, and other bits and pieces that also get thrown in there. And that's for the entire squad. So that includes managers, coaching staff, etc., and everything like that too. Liverpool the past couple of years have been in the low to mid 60s, and that's essentially, we're not close to the limit, but going and forking over 120 million, 150 million for Alexander Isak, and then getting a couple of centre backs on top of it, and possibly a left wing if Diaz goes, that's not feasible, nor do we have the time to be able to do that. And then you also have to factor in the fact that Newcastle haven't been able to convince anybody other than Anthony Elanga to join them, meaning that how are they going to convince anybody when Alexander Isak goes? They've been able to convince one player while Alexander Isak has been there. They're not. How are they going to convince anybody when he goes? There's no good. It's no good to Newcastle having 120 million quid burning in their pocket if they can't buy anybody, which is why I don't think they sell Isak, and why I think we need to move away from that. Not because we can't do it, but because we shouldn't do it and focus on the centre backs. That's just the way that I look at it, to be perfectly honest with you. Rio's a kid. Rio's a 17-year-old kid. He should not be included in the first team unless you want him to end up like Yamil Yamal and be broken by the age of 22 and never have a career. He's a kid. I'm not taking him as a first team option. If you buy Isak, and even if you buy Isak and have Hugo Ekitike there, you still are short. You're not listening to what I'm saying, in that Newcastle don't have to sell, and they can just refuse to sell. We ignored a release clause for Luis Suarez when Arsenal tried to pay it. Newcastle don't have to sell, even if the player wants to leave, and unless he decides to throw Gyökeres and completely go on strike, Newcastle don't have to sell. And even if he does that, Newcastle have grounds to fine him, suspend him, and it will have to go through the Court of Arbitration of Sport in the European Union. So, but Newcastle, despite what people think that Isak holds all the cards, no, Newcastle hold a lot of the cards in this. So you're still relying on Newcastle being open to sell there, and you're wasting time in doing that, because I don't think they're going to sell. But we're going to move on to the Diaz news. Speaking of Luis Diaz, but before we do that, make sure to like and subscribe. Jump into the link in our bio for all of our socials. Lots more content is coming everybody's way across all mediums: TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, the whole lot. Very excited for everything that's coming up. We read here mentioning that Bayern Munich should just drop that 100 million and stop playing poor. They're never going to drop 100 million. That's just never going to drop. They're probably going to go to the guts of about 70 million pounds, that is, and that'll be the height of it. And I think Liverpool will accept that, because Fabrizio Romano reported earlier today that Liverpool seem to be more softening to the idea of Luis Diaz going, which means we probably have a replacement lined up. I don't think it's Isak coming in, that Hugo Ekitike moves to the left wing. I think it's more to get an actual left winger. But yeah, that's the way that I look at it. I don't see them going above 70 million euro, because if they go, I think Florian Plettenberg said that they're not going to go above 80 million euro, which is about 70 million pounds thereabouts. So I think this will be the last bit. If Liverpool don't accept this, they're going to walk away. That's the way that I look at it. We have E2 mentioning here, 100% agree with you. CB is a must. I think Isak, we can get him next season. We still have Nunes, but if we lack CB, in my opinion, we could struggle to get top 4. Go get Gay and Giovanni, just splash the cash for the right thing. I don't even think it's that we'll struggle to get top 4. I think we'll struggle in most competitions. We'll get top 4, no problem. I have no issues with that whatsoever. We'll get top 4, no problem. It's just a fact that we won't probably win anything if we don't get our centre back sorted. We may get lucky again next season, but I don't think we'll win anything if we don't get that centre back depth sorted. Willie Boy 92 asking, is Isak going to gel well with Ekitike? They're very similar in style, so I can't see why not. It will depend. I personally don't think we're getting Isak, not because we can't, but because we won't. Purely because I don't think Newcastle sell. That's basically the reason why. I don't think Newcastle will sell whatsoever, because they haven't been able to convince anybody to join while he's still there. Now your big ticket target is now leaving. So your big selling point of, you get to come and play with Alexander Isak, and you get to play with Bruno Guimaraes, and you get to play with Tonali and Dan Burn. Dan Burn is a fantastic player, but you wouldn't necessarily put him as the poster boy. You'd be using Isak. Isak is your big ticket. So I don't think that they're going to sell him, to be perfectly honest. Florian Wirtz with the left wing. I don't mean every game, but also Dominic gets in there at the team as well. Florian Wirtz at the left wing role, unless you're playing a back 3, isn't going to work, because he'd be playing a left-sided 10, and I don't see us playing a back 3 because we've barely enough centre-backs to play a back 2 at the moment. Just looking to there, and they said it's £65 million for Diaz. Yeah, I'd imagine that's probably about right. I think it's like 7. I think they said 60 or 70 million euros plus add-ons, so it could be both of them. So we'll see. They're close to agreeing a deal with Sesko. They're nowhere near close. Nobody has said that they're anywhere near close, just that they appreciate the player. And Vissa is a difficult one, as they need to pay around £50 million for him. They also don't have the money to pay in full for Sesko, so that's going to be a long, drawn-out deal as well. And Sesko wants silly money, apparently, according to Arsenal. So we'll see if they're even able to afford his fees at all. But I still don't think that they'll eventually... Like, if this goes on another 2 weeks, it's 2 weeks then until the window ends. If Isak isn't a Liverpool player in the next 5 days, I don't see him ever becoming a Liverpool player in this transfer window. It's just too little time for Newcastle to spend that 120 million we send them. It's just not going to happen, unfortunately. But with Diaz possibly going to Bayern Munich and Liverpool softening their stance on it, I think we'll probably go and get a younger winger, so that you have a natural progression. So, like, for example, if Malik Fofana, he's only 20. Rio is 3 years younger than him. Gakpo is about 4 or 5 years older than him. When Gakpo leaves in a couple of years' time, now Malik Fofana is nearing his physical prime, meaning you can then bed him into the starting squad. And then you have Rio coming through also. And the perks of somebody like Malik Fofana, they can play both sides. So I don't see an issue with that. Similarly with Rodrigo, he can play both sides, meaning you don't stunt Rio's pathway into the first team. But once Gakpo ends up leaving in about 2 years' time, I'd imagine, they're just going to put whoever the younger guy is behind Gakpo as a starter, and then Rio then comes behind them, and the cycle will just continue. Then by the time the young guy that's behind Gakpo goes, they'll be about 28, meaning that Rio will be probably 24, give or take, coming into his physical prime, having multiple years as a backup and betting into it. That's the way that I would look at it. Then you haven't watched Fofana. While Rodrigo is arguably a better player, he's 4 years older and has been playing in a Madrid side. That's basically it. That's the only difference. Fofana is a left-footed left winger that plays right wing also, and is a dribbling monster. So if you think Fofana isn't good enough, you haven't been watching Fofana. Also asking as well that Sesko is very arrogant. He wants to play solo, not with Isak. Possibly, but that's why I don't see that deal getting done, because first of all, he wants to play on his own. Second of all, I don't see them selling Isak. Third of all, they don't really have the ability to convince anybody to join them, I'm afraid, at the minute. Willie mentioned in here, can Isak sue Newcastle if they don't let him go? He can try, but then Newcastle can also sue him for not fulfilling his contract. If he basically goes on strike, he's going to get fined, suspended, and brought to court over not fulfilling his contract. It means it goes to the Court of Arbitration of Sports, the CAS, in Europe, which is where most of this stuff is handled. And you see, and the last big sort of ticket thing with that was Mbappe's signing bonus that PSG refused to pay. That's basically the last big one, and they forced him to pay. I just don't see Newcastle keeping a player that doesn't want to be there and be unhappy. He's getting paid a couple of $100,000 a week. I'm sure he'll get over it. If he's told he just won't sign a new renewal and he'll leave in January or he'll leave next summer, that's the way that it'll probably go. And the problem is with that is he's trying to force a move now because most of the teams have now gotten their strikers. Arsenal have gotten Gyökeres, which I think is hilarious because that's the wrong option for them. We've now gotten Ekitike. United are trying to get Sesko, for example, as our Newcastle. Chelsea have gotten their two guys in Delap and João Pedro. Man City have Haaland for as long as they'll have him because he's after signing a massive deal. So I don't know how that's going to work out. Barcelona won't be able to afford him because they can't even register Marcus Rashford on a loan. And Real Madrid aren't going to spend nearly 100 million quid on somebody who's about to turn 27 next summer if he isn't going to go this season. Madrid don't have that cash to be able to do that. So in 12 months' time, all of Isak's options, let's say Ekitike kicks on and gets 20 goals and 5 assists, or 15 goals and 10 assists, let's say, and Liverpool are and he's done a real stormer. Liverpool will just turn around and be like, no, we get a backup. We're grand. We don't need Isak now. We've gotten the player we want for 50 million quid less. They're not even going to consider it. Neymar mentioned in here that we want Fofana. We can get Fofana on cheap and get Rodrigo as well. For a bid of £36 million has been rejected from Everton for Fofana. Fofana is probably going to cost, since Lyon are no longer getting relegated, Fofana is now probably going to cost about £50 million. That's not cheap. There's no way that that's cheap. Rodrigo would cost another 30 million on top of that, but Rodrigo's wages would then bump that up massively. Whereas Fofana, you could get him for 30 million less, yes, and there's not that much of a difference in a transfer fee. But then the salary and the bonus comes into it, where Rodrigo will be on a monstrous amount in comparison to him. We have Obenyaya. Is it really possible for Liverpool to sign Isak given his high wage demands? Oh, we can sign him. There's no problem. We can sign him. We could sign him and pay him 400 grand a week if we wanted. We could pay 150 million quid and get him. But it would be the only business we do for the remainder of the summer. That's just the way it would be. I don't think we'll do it because it'll be the only business that we have available for the rest of the summer. That's just the way that it is, unfortunately. They were mentioning that he thinks that Isak forces a move and Newcastle cave. They aren't a well-run club. They're not, but they are ran by people that are very, very prideful and stubborn in the PIF, which is the Saudi fund that runs the Saudi league, essentially. This is why the reason that even if he tries to force a move, if Newcastle, there's no point in Newcastle having 150 million quid if nobody will join them. It's absolutely pointless. It makes absolutely zero sense to them. In Newcastle's eyes, they will basically look at it from a point of view of, we can either sell Isak and risk trying to get guys in and fail and completely fall apart next season, or we can keep Isak. We won't have an unknown at the striker position. We know he's going to get us about 20 league goals, and we know he's probably going to get us a good few goals in the Champions League. It'll get us a good bit of money in the Champions League. Try and finish in a UCL spot again next season. Sell Isak next year for 90 million, 100 million. If anybody is available for him, deal with an unhappy player, because you can just put that down to man management for Eddie Howe. Winning fixes everything, by the way. If he's unhappy and then he starts winning at Newcastle and like winning more games and finishing higher, like, that'll fix any sort of attitude problems. The issue becomes that if Newcastle don't think they can get anybody else through by the end of the transfer window, and the longer this drags on, the more likely that happens. They couldn't get James Trafford. They couldn't get Ekitike. They failed twice with Alanga before getting him the third time. They couldn't get... Who else did they try? They tried another centre-back as well, Scalvini, who is a walking hospital bill in himself, and they wanted 50 million for him. There's about 5 or 6 rejections that they've had this transfer window already. And that doesn't bode well for anybody else that has heard. Like, if you're a footballer and your agent rings you up and says, here, Newcastle is looking into you, your agent is going to do due diligence and be like, okay, what's the project? What are you going to be doing? What's their plans? Who have they gotten in so far this window? And if you're a prospect that's young and up and coming through Europe, and you're on the level that Newcastle wants, which is an Alanga, a Sesko, Wissa, so on and so forth, your agent is going to be like, they've had 5 rejections already so far. Their project isn't looking great, and they're about to lose their main striker, and there's only a month left in the window. They may or may not get anybody over the line by the end of the window. You're probably going to sit tight and wait until the January window before moving anywhere. That's just the way that it goes. Like, there's no way that they'll end up... I would be shocked if Alexander Isak is in a Liverpool jersey by the end of the transfer window. And that's not because we can't do it. I just don't think Newcastle sell. They just won't sanction a sale because there's so little time left. Yeah, the Saudi are petty. They don't want to get spanked by Liverpool. That would destroy their reputation. It's not even that they don't want to get spanked by Liverpool. It's a simple fact that they can't get any replacements in. They'd happen if they had replacements in and they'd signed Trafford and they'd signed a centre back and they'd gotten Wissa, they'd sell Isak in a heartbeat, because then they can sell that project to other up and coming players to come in. Do you want to be the main guy now, or are you going to put Wissa as the main guy and get a younger guy to come in behind him, and so on? Like, that's more so the issue, is that you can't, if you're not able to sell the project while Isak is there, and now Isak wants to leave, how are you now going to sell that project to other prospective players coming in? It's like, this is part of the problem, that they keep trying to underplay for players and it takes ages to submit another offer and rejection. As you said, they're not really well run at the moment. They don't have a director of football. They don't have a sporting director. It's Eddie Howe and basically a couple of other guys running it at the moment. It's just going to be madness till the end of the window. And I really think that that's probably going to cause an awful lot of the issue. We just need to see what happens with Sesko and Wissa. Whatever happens with them will determine Isak's future. Absolutely. And unless they get both of them over the line, I don't see Isak walking out the door. If they get Sesko over the line, I could probably see it. But if they don't get Sesko over the line and it's just Wissa, they're not selling Isak. Because essentially they'll have signed Alanga and Wissa for a Champions League campaign. That is not in any way, shape or form an upgrade on what they have at the moment. Alanga helps them a little bit in transitional play, and Wissa is a very, very clinical, very, very good finisher. I would like him as a backup at Liverpool. Same with Jean-Philippe Mateta. Both of them are kind of the same sort of ilk, but I just don't see Newcastle selling, to be perfectly honest with you. Just because, not because we can't submit the bid or we can't give them what they want in regards to money. It's just they won't sell. And the reason they won't sell is because they can't get anybody in. And if you're trying to sell that project, it's failing miserably. Like, there's a month left of the transfer window, give or take. A month and 4 days left, a month and 5 days left of the transfer window. And the Premier League season starts in about 3 weeks. Their backs are against the wall to get this sorted. And if you're going into a Champions League campaign with Wissa and Alanga as your signings, with zero centre-back depth added, because Sven Botman is a walking hospital bill, you're going to keep Isak to try and consolidate any wins that you would have had already. There's no way they'll sell him unless they get multiple deals over the line. It's just, like, Newcastle will just deal with an unhappy player if it gets them Champions League next season. And the reason, if they get Champions League next season, that now is 2 years of the new format of Champions League on the books, meaning that they have much, much more room regarding PSR. But the problem is that Newcastle have to make that gamble of, do we gamble on the unknown by selling Isak and hoping we get players through the door and we don't completely fall apart next season if we don't get players through the door? Or do we keep Isak knowing that he's going to get us goals and secure us a Champions League spot next season, then let him walk for 100 million quid next season rather than the 150 million they're asking for now? That's the gamble they're trying to weigh up at Newcastle at the moment. They were mentioning here that Crystal Palace are going to get smashed next season as they're getting taken by Arsenal. They can't afford it. Arsenal can't afford it. Arsenal will not get Eze in this window because Eze is going to come in and either take over from Odegaard. And if you've already signed Gyökeres, where are you going to play Eze and Odegaard? Odegaard is going to get dropped. They've already signed Zubamendi to go alongside Rice. They've already signed Madueke. Madueke, you're not spending 55 million on a right wing backup for Saka if you're signing Madueke. He's going to play left wing. Their left wing signing is Madueke. They're not going to get Eze purely because he just doesn't fit now. If they got Eze instead of Madueke, I'd agree with you that he's going there and Crystal Palace will get lynched. But I don't see Eze moving at all. Similarly to Semenyo. Semenyo was linked to them as well and linked to United as well. Semenyo is not moving anywhere because he signed a new deal with Bournemouth. But Mateta, I would want with us. I want Mateta at Liverpool as our backup. If you want a Diogo Jota replacement, God bless him. If you want Diogo Jota replacement, Mateta is a carbon copy who's just more fit and always available. He is an absolute efficiency monster when it comes to finishing. But I don't like Crystal Palace aren't going to sell Eze either because again, they're now going into a European campaign and they have an ability to finish fairly high up the table again. It's now getting to the crunch time of the window that unless people have, this is why you get your business done early in the window. This is why we got Kirkes, Frimpong and Wirtz done early in the window and got Mohamed Salah and Virgil van Dijk signed before the window even opened. Now you have a massive project to sell a striker or to a winger. You'd be like, oh, you get to come in and you'll have Frimpong or Wirtz, Kirkes flying up either side of you. Then we also have the two best players in the world, and Salah and Van Dijk still there at the moment. You have a best goalkeeper in the world and Alisson there at the moment. Now we're after signing the best young attacking midfielder in the world in Florian Wirtz, back-to-back Bundesliga Player of the Year, getting 30 goals and 30 goal contributions a season the last 2 years. That's the guy you're going to be getting fed by. The striker prospect at Liverpool now, and then now we can go and turn it. Now we've gotten Hugo Ekitike as well, so we're ready made to win now. So that's an awful lot more of an attractive proposition to players coming in because we got our business done early and quick. Now it's getting to the point where these deals are going to be drawn out massively because people will be reluctant to sell because they don't know if they're going to be able to get their player in, because it's a snowball effect because you're trying to buy from me. I'm reluctant to sell because I don't know if I'm going to be able to buy. I'm going to be able to get my guy from the guy over there. So the player you're trying to buy from me, the replacement that I want, he might not sell to me because he doesn't know if he's going to get the replacement he wants, and so on and so forth. And then that snowballs up the tiers of football. And now you're sat with your dick in your hand and nobody to sign for you. That's where Newcastle and Palace find themselves at the moment. There's been a lot of teams that have done very, very little business this window, and I can see a good few overpays and panic buys in the next 4 weeks. Katie mentioned in here, we're going into the season with a 34-year-old Virgil van Dijk. Konaté doesn't want to be here. I think Konaté does want to be here, actually. I think he's actually going to sign a deal now and be announced in the Adidas kit in about a week's time. Absolutely no information on that whatsoever. I just think it's a hunch. And then Joe Gomez have made a glass. What a great defense we have. Yeah, it's almost like we shouldn't have sold Jarell Quansah and actually tried to sell the injury-prone centre-back that is never available. Who'd have thought that would have been the smart idea? Now we need two centre-backs because Joe Gomez has gone home on an Achilles injury. He's never been able to be reliable outside of maybe 1.5 seasons. We needed a centre-back before Quansah left. We've needed two since he left. I think Arteta is dumb and he'll buy Eze, but favour Odegaard no matter what. I think, but if he's going to do that, Eze isn't going to want to go. That's the thing as well, you see. If he's going to do that, Eze is just not going to go anywhere near them. If we can see the need, if we can see we need a centre back backup, I think Slot can see it as well in Astro. He said that we haven't replaced Quansah, which means to me that we're probably going to get a centre-back by the end of the window. But I think we need cover for Joe Gomez because that man just can't stay fit for the life of him, to be perfectly honest. But I have done enough rambling for this evening. I want to thank everybody for joining us. It's just myself and I was only going to go for a half an hour, but we sort of rambled on for nearly 3/4 of an hour. But before I do depart, you guys, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure to jump to the link in our bio for all of our socials. We are on Twitter. We are on Instagram. We are on Facebook. We are on TikTok. And now we are building our brand on YouTube as well. Make sure to have your notifications on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out. We're going to have plenty of content coming over the next couple of weeks, so make sure you're around for that. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their weekend. Hopefully we get news about a centre-back soon, and hopefully the injury to Joe Gomez isn't as severe as some might fear, with it being an Achilles injury. And hopefully we get Konaté signed in the next couple of days as well, or even the next week or two. But other than that, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope